In this episode, we're going to be talking about taking things to the next level.
Aspire to make a difference.
You've already been on a number of dates with your partner, the person you've met. Again, it could be for a man or woman. You definitely want to take, as with all these, you want to put your best foot forward, shower and present yourself very well. Makeup for ladies, if that's something you're into. And this point, you should be, as you've been dating, you got your second and third dates, you should be looking at, do we have an invite to one in another's house, or do you have a place that's close by? You should be thinking about that. And then as you're going through the date and things like that, at this point, hopefully you've already been doing some level of intimacy. You should have already hopefully done some kissing and things like that. And hopefully you can kind of just go into that without being too intimidating about it. For many, my situation, it had been years since I was at this stage. So it was just as scary as the first date. In fact, some ways more scary, because it had been almost probably close to 20 years since I had been intimate with somebody other than my wife and I had been. So it was kind of a shocking thing to go through this. In this day and age, I highly recommend communication, talking about it, talking about what your partner is interested in. You can be in a date, for example, and you're having the main course and stuff like that. Maybe talking about dessert and talk about, hey, are you comfortable coming over to my place after this? And hopefully at that point, or going over, having over to your place. And again, this can be, things are different nowadays than they used to be. It used to be the guy always had to be the one initiating. There's nothing wrong with a woman saying the same thing. She can say, hey, why don't you come over to my place when we're done here? Either one can work out fine. It's a new age in terms of the men versus women at this point, in terms of who initiates things, in terms of stepping things up. One thing I would highly recommend is you don't keep going date after date after date. The whole reason for dating is to get intimate. If you're in relationships, dating, the difference between a real relationship and a friendship is intimacy. If you don't have intimacy, then you have a friendship. And that is the number one difference. So if you're going to continue to date and continue to go on dates and see this person, you need to step up the intimacy. Otherwise, you just become friends. And friends is fine too, and that does happen. I've had several situations where you're dating someone for a while, and then for whatever reason, there's some red flags come up, and you don't go intimate. You don't go that direction, and you become good friends, and you continue to see each other as friends. That has happened on numerous occasions. Back to the main subject. What I used to a lot of times was massage. Massage was always a really good way to kind of break the ice, so to speak. I don't think there's any real positive or negative to go into her house versus your place. Either one works. Try not to be too intimidated by it, because again, this is a new thing, but communication is definitely key to kind of work it out and figure out what the comfort level on each. And there's also women that a lot of times, especially women, have trauma that they're dealing with and may be uncomfortable with certain levels of intimacy. So definitely be communicating about that and make sure you're not pushing the envelope. And that also can be something that's like a yellow or red flag. If there's women that have too much trauma, you may not want to go through all these hoops. A friend of mine recently, he had a situation like that where the woman just had way too much trauma, and he just had to move on because it became too much of a red flag. It started out as yellow and then became a bright red as he was being intimate, and she kind of freaked out on the couch, and they were just like kissing and stuff. And he's like, okay. But the cool thing was he didn't push it. He didn't push it. He didn't go. And that's a key one now, especially these days with Me Too and stuff. You don't want to get yourself in trouble. And also, as we've talked about before, this is someone that you're hoping to have, like an ongoing thing. Even if it is more casual, and let's say you're doing more like a hookup type thing, you're looking for something more long-term, something that's going to be continual. As you're taking things to the next level, and as you're getting intimate, starting to get things hot and heavy, should be usually after the date, you come over. Let's just say, for example, you go over to her place, you're on the couch and things are kind of moving along. I would definitely recommend, continue to talk about everything at every level and make sure that, both you and the woman, if it's man, woman, Women, there's no reason women can't also articulate and talk, communicate with what you like and don't like and what you're comfortable with. Again, a lot of men, myself included, sometimes we get worried about rejection, that kind of thing, like you going from kissing to the next level, like, touching outside of breast, things like that, and it can be definitely intimidating. You're like, well, is she going to be comfortable, or is she going to like move my hand away or swat my hand away, that kind of thing. So you've got to, and there's no reason why you can't ask. You can't say, hey, I think we're, ready for that. And people think that's silly, and you're not in a porn movie. Porno movies are fantasy. And the same thing with regular Hollywood movies. They're fantasy. They don't work like that. And there's no reason you can't communicate on both sides, saying, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready for the whole thing, or not. Or she could say, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'm only comfortable with, this. And then that's another thing you have to decide in terms of, red or yellow flags. I mean, there's women still that won't have sex until you get married, and that they're out there. And men too, that are, super religious or whatever reason. You have to figure out if that's something that's going to be, hopefully by this time you've communicated enough to know what their boundaries are in terms of intimacy. Some of my friends, and myself included, I, wouldn't have continued dating somebody that had those more extreme views, but it's everybody's own choice about how they feel about intimacy and what is acceptable and what is not. One thing I highly recommend is most anybody else who's conscious around here, definitely safe sex, things like that. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get yourself a baby after date number 4. That'd be kind of stupid, more than kind of stupid, especially if you're a situation like, newly divorced or going through a divorce or any kind of thing like that. You don't want to get yourself wrapped up. And it goes for women too. I mean, you don't want to get pregnant, even if you got a kid or two. Last thing you want is some guy you've just been seeing for a month or two and now you're pregnant. And I think most women are pretty adamant about it, but definitely there's no reason why a woman can't insist that a guy puts on a condom. And if he doesn't have one, then tough shit. He's got to go hit the bricks, go down to the corner store and get one. There's no reason she can't tell him to do that. And if he doesn't like it, that's a big red or yellow flag for her with him. And also, for the guy, be prepared. If you're getting date 3 or 4, you should be prepared for that. You should have some condoms with you if you don't want to not have one and need one and be stuck. And you don't want to you don't want to get yourself stuck in that situation either, because, you could get a woman pregnant and that could be a big problem for your life. It's an 18-year plus commitment after a month is not a good balancing there for your life. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video about taking things to the next level. In our next episode, we will continue with this, but we will actually expand about how to actually please your partner. A lot of do's and don'ts and a lot of misinformation out there, like we talked about with porn and stuff. Porn is not reality. And note for most guys, most women would not want to have sex like porn. That is not appealing to almost any woman. And even if you're built like a porn star, they still don't want it. Please like and share this video with anyone who may benefit from its content. It's word of mouth from people like you who will help this channel to grow.